The entire building shook with a deep metallic bang, and a warning alarm blared through the hallway. Marcus, the maintenance technician on duty, immediately froze. He recognized that sound. It was the emergency brake slamming inside one of the elevators. And when that sound happened, someone was trapped. Marcus sprinted down the polished corridor, his boots pounding on the floor. Smoke was already seeping through the cracks of the elevator door. Sparks burst through the narrow gap, lighting the metal edges orange. This wasn't a simple malfunction. Something inside was burning. "Hello? Is anyone in there?" Marcus shouted. A panicked voice echoed from inside, shaky, older, desperate. Help, please. I can't breathe." Marcus's blood ran cold. Someone was alive in there, and the smoke was getting thicker by the second. He dropped to one knee, grabbed the edge of the elevator door, and tried to pry it open. The metal was scorching hot, vibrating violently from the failing mechanism. Marcus had pried open thousands of doors in his career, but this one felt like it was fighting back. He gritted his teeth and pushed harder. "Hold on, sir, don't move." Inside, the older man coughed violently, struggling to speak. I'm stuck. Please hurry." Another burst of sparks shot out, nearly hitting Marcus in the face. But he didn't flinch. Every ounce of strength in his body went into forcing that door apart. The building alarm continued to scream above him, but Marcus tuned everything out except the man's voice. Come on, don't quit on me," Marcus muttered, bracing his foot against the wall. Finally, the metal gave way by just a few inches. Enough to see the man inside. An elderly gentleman in a gray suit sat on the floor, trembling, gripping his chest. His face was pale, eyes watery from smoke, and his expensive tie was singed at the edge. He looked completely helpless, completely terrified. Marcus recognized him instantly. Mr. Sterling, the CEO of the entire corporation. The man who owned half the building was sitting on the elevator floor, seconds away from passing out. "Sir, listen to me," Marcus said firmly. "When I say move, you move. I'm getting you out." Sterling tried to nod but barely managed it. His hand shook as he reached toward the gap. Marcus shoved again, one hard, painful push, and opened the door wide enough for one person to escape. Smoke poured into the hallway. The CEO coughed uncontrollably. "Grab my arm," Marcus ordered. Sterling didn't hesitate. He clutched Marcus's forearm, and Marcus pulled with everything he had, lifting the CEO out just as another small explosion sparked inside the elevator shaft. The moment Sterling collapsed onto the floor outside, he gasped for air, hands trembling on his chest. Marcus knelt beside him. "Sir, stay with me. You're safe now." Sterling looked up at him, eyes wide, overwhelmed, and whispered through shaky breaths, "You saved my life?" Before Marcus could respond, building security rushed in, medics sprinted down the hall, and alarms continued to echo across the floor. But Sterling didn't take his eyes off Marcus. Not for a second. And neither of them knew it yet. But this moment would change Marcus's entire life by sunrise. Paramedics lifted Mr. Sterling onto a stretcher, checking his pulse and oxygen levels. The hallway smelled of burnt wires and metal, and the last bit of smoke drifted out of the cracked elevator door. Marcus stood a few steps away, watching with a mixture of worry and exhaustion. His arms felt like rubber from forcing the doors open. One of the medics called out, "His vitals are unstable. We need to get him to the ER now." But even in that chaotic moment, Mr. Sterling reached out weakly and grabbed Marcus's wrist. "Don't leave," he whispered. Marcus leaned closer. "I'm right here. Sir, you're safe. They're taking you to the hospital." Sterling blinked slowly, still trembling. "What's your name?" "It's Marcus, sir. Marcus Hill." Sterling repeated the name under his breath, as if memorizing it. "Marcus, thank you." Before Marcus could reply, the medics pushed the stretcher toward the elevator lobby, toward the only working elevator on the north side. Sterling didn't look away from Marcus until the doors closed. Marcus exhaled a long, shaky breath. He wasn't used to moments like this. He fixed elevators. He patched drywall. He replaced light bulbs. He didn't save the CEO. That wasn't supposed to be part of his job. Security patted him on the back. "Man, That was insane. You seriously pulled Sterling out with your bare hands? Marcus shrugged awkwardly. Anyone would have done it. But they all knew the truth. Most people wouldn't have run toward a smoking elevator. Most people wouldn't have risked it. Marcus didn't stay to hear more. His shift technically ended an hour ago. And all he wanted was to pick up his daughter from school and go home. He changed out of his smoke-covered uniform, grabbed his backpack, and headed outside. The cold evening air felt different, sharper, quieter, like the world had paused. He pulled out his phone. A text from his daughter's teacher lit up the screen. Emily is waiting in the office. She said she can't wait to tell you something. Marcus smiled tiredly. At least someone had a good day, he murmured. He didn't know it yet. But tomorrow morning, the moment he opened his eyes, he would step into a world completely different from the one he knew today. The next morning started like every other morning in Marcus's life. He woke up before sunrise, quietly got dressed, and tiptoed past his daughter's room. Emily slept curled under her purple blanket, hugging her stuffed bunny. Marcus paused at the doorway for a second, smiling softly. No matter how hard life got, she was always his anchor. In the kitchen, he reheated day-old coffee, grabbed his old work boots, and checked his phone. He wasn't expecting anything unusual, just the usual shift reminders. But there it was. A missed call. Unknown number. Voicemail left at 6:12 a.m. Marcus frowned and pressed play. Mr. Marcus Hill, this is St. Helena Medical Center. Mr. Charles Sterling requested to speak with you as soon as possible. Please call back. Marcus froze. The CEO? Calling him? At 6 in the morning? His heartbeat quickened. Was Sterling okay? Did something go wrong after the rescue? Did the elevator incident get worse? 100 questions hit him at once. But there was no time to overthink. He needed to get Emily to school. A few minutes later, Emily came running to the table, wearing mismatched socks and holding her bunny. Daddy, guess what? I get to paint today. Marcus forced a smile. That's great, sweet pea. Let's get you some breakfast. But even as he poured cereal, his mind kept drifting back to the voicemail. After dropping Emily off at school, Marcus finally dialed the number. The receptionist answered immediately. St. Helena Medical Center. How may I direct your call? Hi, this is Marcus Hill. I was told Mr. Sterling wanted to speak with me. There was a brief silence on the other end, almost as if she recognized the name. One moment, please. Marcus waited, pacing outside his car. The hospital elevator dinged in the background through the phone, and his chest tightened. Finally, a calm but firm voice came through. Marcus? It was Sterling. Yes, sir. Are you all right? Sterling breathed slowly, his voice weak but steady. You saved my life yesterday. I need you to come to the hospital. There's something important we need to discuss privately. Marcus stiffened. Did something happen? Is it about the elevator? No, Sterling said. This is about you. Marcus felt the world tilt slightly. About him? Sterling added. Please come today. I won't take much of your time. It's important. The call ended before Marcus could ask anything else. He stood there in the morning sunlight, gripping the phone, knowing one thing for sure. Whatever waited for him at that hospital, it was about to change everything. Marcus arrived at St. Helena Medical Center with the same nervous feeling he used to get before his military training exams. He wasn't sure why a powerful CEO wanted to see him privately. But the tone of Sterling's voice echoed in his mind the entire drive. Inside the hospital, everything felt too bright, too clean, too quiet. He checked in at the front desk, and the receptionist immediately recognized his name. Mr. Hill? Mr. Sterling is expecting you. Room 402. Expecting him. Marcus wasn't sure he'd ever heard anyone say that about him before. He walked down the hallway, passing nurses pushing carts and doctors checking charts. When he reached the door, he hesitated, just for a second, then gently pushed it open. Charles Sterling sat propped up in the hospital bed, looking pale but far more stable than he had been inside the burning elevator. The moment he saw Marcus, he gave a small, grateful smile. You came, Sterling said. I got your message, Marcus replied, taking a step inside. Are you feeling better? Sterling chuckled weakly. Better than yesterday. Thanks to you. Marcus shook his head. Anyone in my position would have helped. No, Sterling said, his tone firm despite his condition. Most people would have waited for backup. You risked your life for a stranger. Marcus didn't know what to say to that. He simply nodded and waited for the reason he'd been called. Sterling reached for the small remote beside him and lowered the bed slightly. There's something I need to discuss with you. Something personal. Marcus stiffened. Is this about the elevator investigation? If they need my report. It's not about the elevator. Sterling cut in. It's about Emily. Marcus's heart stopped. My daughter? What about her? Sterling took a slow breath. I had a visitor this morning, your landlord. Marcus froze. He mentioned you were behind on rent. Sterling continued quietly, and that he was planning to issue an eviction notice. Marcus felt his stomach sink. The last thing he wanted was pity from a stranger, especially a billionaire CEO. I didn't ask him for help, Marcus said quickly. He had no right to bother you. Sterling raised a hand. He didn't bother me. He came because he recognized me on the news and wanted to warn me about the kind of man who saved me. Marcus's face tightened, a mix of embarrassment and anger flooding his chest. Sterling continued, Marcus, you carry yourself with pride. But sometimes pride keeps good men from receiving help they truly need. Marcus looked away, jaw clenched. Sir, with respect, I'm not looking for charity. Sterling nodded. I know. That's why what I'm offering isn't charity. Marcus slowly met his eyes again. Sterling leaned forward slightly. I want to make you a proposal. A job, a real one, with a salary that ensures Emily never has to worry again. Marcus felt the world go still. A job? With the man he rescued yesterday? Sterling smiled faintly. Sit down, Marcus. Let me explain. Marcus slowly sat down in the chair beside the hospital bed, still processing the words he had just heard. A job? From a man like Charles Sterling? It felt unreal, like something that only happened to other people. Never to a single father who'd been fighting to stay afloat for years. What kind of job? Marcus finally asked, his voice low and cautious. Sterling adjusted his pillow before answering. Head of security. For my personal branch. Not the whole corporation, just my immediate team. Someone I trust. Someone who's proven they can stay calm even when everything is falling apart. Marcus blinked. Sir, I'm just a maintenance worker. I'm not. Not qualified? Sterling interrupted gently. Marcus, you pulled me out of a burning elevator with no gear, no backup, and no hesitation. I trust you more than half the men in my current security division. Marcus swallowed hard, unsure whether to feel honored or overwhelmed. Sterling continued. The job comes with full benefits, health insurance, a retirement plan, and a salary that would keep you and your daughter comfortable. The mention of Emily made Marcus's chest tighten. He pictured her smile, her little shoes lined by the door, the hospital bills he still hadn't finished paying from her asthma attacks last winter. The thought of giving her stability almost made him dizzy. But why me? Marcus said quietly. You barely know me. Sterling leaned back. I know enough. I know you didn't hesitate to save me. I know you work long hours and still make time to be a good father. And I know what it's like to grow up without someone who believes in you. Marcus's shoulders stiffened. You think I grew up without support? Sterling nodded slowly. I read the background report your landlord kept bragging about. You enlisted right after high school. Served your time. Came back home. Started working alone. No family support. No partner. Just you and your little girl. Marcus clenched his jaw. That doesn't make me a charity case. It makes you a strong man. Sterling said simply. A man I want on my team. A long silence followed. Marcus stared at the floor, fighting the instinct to refuse out of pride. But behind his closed-off expression, his thoughts spun around one person, Emily. Would she finally have a warm room? Stable meals? Medicine without him choosing between bills and prescriptions? Sterling watched him carefully. Marcus, let me help you build a life you and your daughter deserve. This isn't pity, it's respect. Marcus exhaled shakily. I just need time to think, he said. Sterling nodded. Take all the time you need. The offer stands. But deep inside, Marcus already knew. This decision could change everything. Marcus left the hospital a little past sunset, the city lights reflecting off the wet pavement. His mind was loud, too loud. Charles Sterling's offer replayed over and over like a song he couldn't shut off. Head of security, benefits, a real salary, stability. It sounded like a dream, and that was exactly what scared him. When Marcus reached his small apartment, Emily ran to the door with her usual excitement. "Daddy, you're home." He forced a smile and lifted her up. "Hey, Peanut, how was school?" She giggled. "We made paper crowns. Look." She placed a crooked, glitter-covered crown on his head. Normally, that would make him laugh. Tonight, he just felt the weight of everything pressing harder. Emily tilted her head. "Daddy, are you okay?" Marcus set her down slowly. Kids always sensed things adults tried to hide. He took a deep breath. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just, long day at work." They sat on the couch, Emily coloring while Marcus stared blankly at the wall. Bills were stacked on the table. Rent was late, again. The electricity bill had a red stripe across the top. Suddenly Sterling's voice echoed in his head. "Let me help you build a life you and your daughter deserve." Marcus rubbed his forehead. He didn't want to rely on anyone. He didn't trust good opportunities. Life taught him that anything that looked too good usually came with a cost. But then Emily looked up at him with quiet worry. "Daddy, you're sad." Marcus shook his head quickly. No, just thinking." She placed her tiny hand on his. "Are we gonna be okay?" That question hit him harder than anything Sterling had said. Before Marcus could answer, his phone buzzed. A message. "Sterling. I meant every word. When you're ready, come back tomorrow. I'd like you to meet someone important." Marcus stared at the screen. Meet someone? Who? Why? His chest tightened. He didn't like surprises, especially from powerful people. But he also didn't want to go back to the elevator maintenance job that barely covered groceries. Not when Emily's future depended on choices he made now. Emily leaned her head on his arm. "Daddy, you always take care of me. You always make us okay." Marcus felt something crack open inside him. Maybe he'd been afraid of the wrong thing. Maybe staying the same was more dangerous than changing. He finally whispered, "I'm trying, Peanut, I really am." Emily smiled, trusting him completely. And that's when Marcus made the decision that would change everything. Tomorrow, he would go back to the hospital. Not to accept the job, but to find out why Charles Sterling wanted him so badly. He needed answers. And Sterling was the only one who could give them. The next morning, Marcus left Emily with the neighbor and headed straight for the hospital. He didn't dress differently, same work boots, same faded jacket, same cautious expression. He wasn't here to accept anything. He just wanted answers. As he stepped into the hospital lobby, he spotted Charles Sterling waiting near the elevators. No suit jacket this time. Just a simple button-down shirt. Sleeves rolled slightly. Less CEO, more human. "Marcus," Sterling said, standing up quickly. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "I need to know why." Marcus said bluntly. "Why the job? Why me? What aren't you telling me?" Sterling nodded slowly. "Fair, come with me." He gestured down a hallway. Marcus followed, staying alert. The air felt heavier, quieter. At the end of the hall, Sterling stopped outside a private room with frosted glass. "Someone wants to meet you," he said, "and after that, everything will make sense." Marcus felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He didn't like surprises, especially ones involving CEOs with too many resources and too many secrets. Sterling opened the door gently. Inside, a woman sat propped up in bed. Early 60s, pale but warm-eyed, with an oxygen tube resting under her nose. When she saw Sterling walk in, she smiled softly. When she saw Marcus, her breath caught. "Mom," Sterling said quietly. "This is him, the man I told you about." Marcus froze. "Mom?" The CEO had brought him to meet his mother? She studied Marcus with a tenderness that startled him. "Thank you," she whispered, "for saving my son." Marcus blinked. "Ma'am, I didn't do anything special." "You kept him calm," she said. "You kept him breathing until help came. The doctor told me." Marcus swallowed hard. He remembered sitting in that stuck elevator, telling Sterling to breathe, to focus, to stay conscious. He didn't think it mattered. Apparently, It mattered more than he knew. Sterling stepped closer. Marcus, I didn't offer you a job because I felt indebted. I offered it because you stayed level-headed under pressure, more than most trained emergency staff. Marcus shook his head. You don't know me. You don't know anything about my life. That's where you're wrong, Sterling said quietly. I know you're a single father doing everything you can. I know you work 2 jobs. I know you've never had a fair chance. He paused. And I know you deserve one. Marcus stiffened. He hated people prying into his life. How do you know all that? Because I looked you up, Sterling admitted. Not to judge you, to understand you. Marcus felt heat rise in his chest. Anger, fear, confusion. Sterling wasn't finished. My mother insisted I meet you again, he said. She says people like you don't appear in our lives by accident. His mother nodded, eyes warm. Sometimes life places the right person in front of you at the right time. Marcus didn't know what to say. Everything felt too big, too sudden. Sterling took a breath. There's more I need to tell you, Marcus, but before I do, I need to know something. Marcus met his eyes. Are you willing to hear the truth? Sterling asked, even if it turns your entire world upside down? Marcus didn't answer right away. He stood still, feeling the weight in Sterling's question. The hospital room felt smaller now, as if even the walls were waiting for his reply. Finally, Marcus gave a slow nod. Yeah, I'll listen. Sterling exhaled as if he'd been holding that breath for hours. He pulled a chair closer but didn't sit, he paced, rubbing the back of his neck like a man searching for the right entry point. Marcus, he began, what I'm about to tell you, almost no one knows. Not my board, not the media, hardly anyone in my world. Marcus crossed his arms, guarded. Then why me? Because you've lived through things I've never had to, Sterling said. Pressure, fear, struggle, and yet, you stay steady. Calm. That night in the elevator wasn't luck. You've built resilience the hard way. Marcus shook his head. That doesn't explain why you're going this far. Sterling stopped pacing. His voice dropped. Because I saw myself in you. Or rather, the version of myself before I lost everything. Marcus frowned. The CEO of Sterling Dynamics lost everything? Sterling nodded. Even his mother looked surprised he said it out loud. My wife, he explained softly. 3 years ago. Car accident. I survived. She didn't. Marcus froze. The room felt suddenly heavier. Like grief had its own gravity. I was in that elevator. Sterling whispered. Because I was running from everything. My company. My board. My own guilt. His hands trembled. I wasn't trapped by the elevator. Marcus, I've been trapped for years. For the first time since they met, Marcus saw the man beneath the CEO, the fear. The exhaustion. The loneliness that money couldn't hide. Sterling stepped closer. When you talked me through those minutes in the elevator, you didn't just keep me conscious. You pulled me out of a place I'd been stuck in for years. His eyes were intense now. You didn't see a billionaire. You saw a scared man. Marcus swallowed hard. Anyone would have done the same. No, Sterling said firmly. Most people freeze. Most panic. But you stayed steady. You kept me breathing. You saved me in more ways than one. His mother nodded gently from the bed. You gave my son something I couldn't, peace. Marcus felt something shift inside him, confusion blending with empathy. Sterling continued. I offered you that job because I thought you had potential. But now, he shook his head. Now I realize it's more than that. Marcus raised an eyebrow. More than a job? Yes, Sterling said quietly. Much more. Marcus felt every nerve in his body tighten. Charles, what exactly are you saying? Sterling met his eyes directly, no hesitation. No masks. I'm saying, he answered, that the connection between us is not a coincidence. And there's something about your past you deserve to know. The room fell silent. Marcus didn't breathe. Sterling took a final step forward. And once I tell you, nothing in your life will ever be the same. Marcus didn't blink. The air in the hospital room felt charged. Thick, like lightning was about to strike. His voice came out low. What do you mean, something about my past? Sterling hesitated. This wasn't a corporate negotiation or a press conference. He looked almost afraid. He exhaled slowly. Marcus, before I tell you anything, I need you to stay calm. This isn't something you've heard before. Marcus's pulse quickened. Just say it. Sterling pulled a folded paper from his inner jacket pocket, aged, creased, clearly carried for years. I've been looking for someone, he said, for a very long time. Marcus frowned. Someone? What does that have to do with me? Sterling placed the paper gently on the bedside table. 23 years ago, my company supported a crisis shelter. A young woman arrived there, pregnant, scared, running from someone. She used a false name. She left the shelter after giving birth, and never returned. Marcus froze. His breath stopped halfway. Sterling continued slowly, choosing every word with painful precision. The baby, her baby, was placed into the system. No father listed, no trace of the mother. The case went cold. Marcus felt heat rushing to his face. Why are you telling me this? Because, Sterling said softly, I've spent years funding private investigators, DNA matching programs, and missing family registries, searching for that child. Marcus shook his head. No, this can't. Sterling stepped closer, voice steady. Marcus, that child was my brother's son. Silence detonated in the room. Marcus stared at him like the world had tilted. Your brother? Before he died, Sterling whispered, he told me he had a child he never got to meet. A child he regretted losing. I promised I would find that child someday. Marcus backed up until he hit the wall. His chest tightened. Stop, just stop. His mother reached out from the bed, her voice trembling. Marcus, breathe. But he couldn't. You think I'm that child? He demanded. Sterling nodded once. I don't think. I know. Marcus's heartbeat thundered. You don't know anything about me. Sterling opened his phone and slid it across the table. I had the lab test something from the elevator, the blood sample they took when you cut your hand helping me. I didn't plan it, it was automatic protocol. When the DNA was logged, it crossed with the registry I've been building for years. Marcus felt dizzy. And? Sterling's voice softened to almost a whisper. Marcus, you're not just the man who saved me. He swallowed. You're my nephew. Marcus's entire world tilted. His mother's hand flew to her mouth in shock. And Marcus whispered the only words he could find. No, this can't be real. Marcus stood frozen, his back still pressed against the cold hospital wall. His mind refused to process Sterling's words. Nephew? Family? Him? It felt impossible. Like someone was reading a script from someone else's life and forcing it onto his. No, Marcus whispered again. You've made a mistake. You had to. There are thousands of people in this city. DNA tests glitch. Records mix up. I'm nobody. I fix elevators. I raise my son. That's it. Sterling didn't move closer. He gave Marcus space. His voice steady but gentle. Marcus, I know this is hard to hear. I didn't believe it either, until the second test confirmed it. Marcus's knees almost buckled. A second test? Sterling nodded. I had them run it twice before I walked into this room. Same result. Same matches. Same family markers my brother had. Marcus stared at him, breath trembling. His mother reached for his hand, but he barely felt her touch. My whole life, he whispered, I've never belonged anywhere, never had answers, never had a name to connect to. And now you're telling me I'm some billionaire's nephew? Sterling's expression softened. I'm telling you you're not alone anymore. Marcus shook his head violently. You don't know me. You don't know the things I've been through. The things I've had to survive. Sterling stepped forward just once, placing the old, worn paper, the one he had carried for years, into Marcus's hands. Your father, my brother, left this. A note for his child. I never knew who that child was, until now. Marcus stared at the paper like it was on fire. His chest tightened painfully. Why didn't he come for me? He whispered, voice cracking. Why didn't anyone? Sterling exhaled shakily. Because he never knew where you were. He spent years trying. When he died, the only thing he asked of me was to keep searching. He paused, his voice thickening. And I did, because you mattered to him. Even before he knew your name. Marcus's eyes filled, but he blinked the tears back hard. I don't know how to deal with this. You don't have to figure it out today, Sterling said, just don't push it away. Marcus swallowed, struggling to steady himself. Why now? Why tell me all of this? Because, Sterling said carefully, what you did in that elevator, the courage you showed, It was the same kind of courage my brother had. I knew the moment you carried your son on your back through that broken hallway, you were family. Marcus looked away, overwhelmed. Sterling continued. I don't want anything from you. But I want to give you something, you and your boy. A life where you're not fighting alone. Marcus's chest tightened. A life? Opportunity. Sterling clarified. Support. A future. Not charity. He paused. A connection you were robbed of since birth. Marcus stared at the floor. And then, softly, almost brokenly, he whispered. What happens now? Sterling smiled gently. Now, Marcus, everything changes.